Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexis Stolak, and I'm so used to doing this intro for my podcast, so let me just restart. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and today we're going to be talking about things to consider before coming to William & Mary, because me as a naive high school senior, not that I'm not naive now and still don't know much about the world, but I do know a little bit more about life than I did 2 years ago, and I think there are a lot of things to consider before making the decision to commit to William & Mary, because although it's only 4 years of your life and it's not that long in the grand scheme of things, it's super important the decisions that you make when considering where you're going to be living, what you're going to be studying. And although you don't need to make what you're going to be studying and all those minuscule decisions right in the beginning, you are deciding on where you're living, who you're spending your time with, and the area that you're spending all of your time after never being there before, or maybe just visiting for a few hours. And it's impossible to know if a place is the right place for you having just visited a few times and reading all of the reviews. You really need to live it to know whether or not it's the right place for you. And spoiler alert, William & Mary is not for everybody. Alright, so let's get right into it. Now, I will say that obviously any sort of video like this is going to be biased. Whether you watch my video or I know there's a few other videos out there talking about the pros and cons of William & Mary, that is going to have a bias no matter what. If the person loves the school, if the person hates the school, there will be a bias. So this video is from the more factual point of view. That way you can take these facts and kind of interpret whether or not you as a high school senior you're into these things, and if you think this is the right place based on these facts, and not just me saying I hate the food, the chicken could be seasoned more. Starting off strong is that the class size at William & Mary is getting increasingly bigger. Year by year, we hear that the administration is admitting more students, and now we're hearing there's not enough beds for all of the students, which is another issue. But with increased class sizes comes a lot of other repercussions, such as increased classroom sizes. So the professor to teacher ratio is increasing, and whether or not that's something that you care about as a student is up to you. But for me, I know I like smaller classroom settings. I don't like lecture style classes because I tend to not pay attention in those. And the biggest part is that professors are pushing back on these bigger class sizes. They don't want these bigger class sizes, but because they ultimately don't really have a choice in the matter, it gets handed to them and they kind of have to sit there and live with it. So for example, my international security class that I took last semester as a major requirement for international relations, which is one of the biggest, I don't want to say the biggest programs, but it's a very popular program here at William & Mary, so naturally there's going to be a lot of students taking this class. Because of the increased class sizes, it went from a 35 person class to a 70 person class, and the professor had to completely change the way he teaches and the way his exams and finals were set up, because it used to be a mainly writing structured class, but it had to turn into an all multiple choice exam. Because of the size of the class, it was virtually impossible to grade 70 students' work. And take with that information what you will. If you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. But personally, that's not why I chose to come to William & Mary. So it's frustrating having to live with that. Also, because of the increased class sizes, room reservations, study spaces, dining halls, things are incredibly packed. So there's only 2 dining halls on campus where you can swipe in instead of using your dining dollars, which is also interesting considering we're about 8,000 students, 7,000 to 8,000 students on campus. So only 2 dining halls, and there have been multiple times where either I or one of my friends have had to take our food outside of the dining hall and find seating elsewhere outside of the area because it was so packed. And on top of that, study spaces. It's almost impossible to find room reservations anywhere, even when it's not final seasons. You can, when it's not final seasons, odds are you're going to find one, but you will have to look. Things are getting booked pretty quickly now because there's so many students. So I can only imagine with the incoming class of 2027, and then after that, how packed things are going to be, because the school was not built to be taking in 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 kids a class. On that same note of the class size is getting smaller, William & Mary's campus is still relatively small in the grand scheme of things, both population-wise and area, square footage, acreage, whatever, both area size. And that itself comes with its own pitfalls. I want to say pitfalls, I don't know. I've been reading too many academic journals lately. Okay. A small campus means seeing everybody you know every day, everywhere. And personally, that is not my vibe. I do not enjoy that. I do not enjoy waking up and going to eat breakfast first thing in the morning and having to see people that I have class with later, and then going out with later in the night, and then going to clubs with them. Seeing the people that I do my daily life and my obligations with is not the same people that I want to be seeing when I'm just trying to eat my lunch and move on with my day. And what I mean by that is that if you're somebody who doesn't like having your social battery having to be on all the time, I don't think William & Mary is a place for you. Whether you're walking to class, whether you're walking through the library to find a seat, you're walking to the dining hall to grab your food, you're going to class, you're going out, you're going to the Food Lion or the Publix or the Target, wherever you go, you will see somebody you know, and you're gonna go, because people here are so nice. You're gonna go and you're gonna be like, hey, how are you doing? How was your day? How was your spring break? Oh, how was that class? If you know them a little better, you're gonna ask them about their classes and their recent exam that they probably told you about the last time you ran into them. And it's just this constant social battery on. And for somebody like me, who I like to call myself an extroverted introvert, because I love doing my own thing. So if I'm walking to the library because I have an assignment due and I'm stressed about that, I don't want to be seeing other people that I know, having to stop and say hi to all of them and catch up with all of these people. Now, you don't have to, and I'm not obligated to do that, and I understand that. But with the William & Mary culture is very happy, very bubbly people. You say hi to everybody that you know, and some people love that. Some people thrive with that. But personally, I am somebody who over-involves myself with a lot of activities and a lot of classes. I have a big course load, so I know a lot of people, and I don't necessarily want to be saying hi to all of them every time I see them. So I like to say like this: like, if you're somebody who likes to be in a public place without knowing anybody, don't come here, because you can't study, you can't eat, you can't go to the gym, you can't do anything without seeing people that you know. And it gets to be kind of high school-like, because you walk into a dining hall and you're like, oh, that person's seeing that person, and that person's in my class, and this person is there. And it's great and fun because it does build a sense of community, but it gets to be exhausting when you're stressed and tired and you're in a bad mood, but you have to pretend like you're not in a bad mood. Also, on the same note as the increasing class sizes, there is a housing crisis at William & Mary. And what that means is that rising juniors and seniors are pretty much shit out of luck when it comes to housing, because, as we know, housing is mandatory for freshmen and sophomores, and because they are letting in more students than they have beds, it creates a problem for the juniors and seniors. And the juniors and seniors typically live off campus, which is still happening. People are living off campus, but now juniors are trying to live off campus, but they just can't find housing because there's an influx of juniors and seniors trying to live off campus, because ones who would have preferred to live on campus are being put onto the housing wait list. So there are a few options still available to students, but those options are really expensive luxury apartments that are notorious for nickel and diming you and making it so you have to pay this lease, or your lease is going up for X reason even though you had no idea that was a reason. I have so many stories of my friends telling me about those apartments are called Midtown. So there are some spaces available, but it's ridiculously expensive, and it's just not economical for people who are also trying to pay $45,000 tuition. And on top of that, some of my friends are considering taking a gap semester in this fall because they simply cannot find a housing that's reasonable to them, and it's not worth it to them to live and pay so much money while also studying here. So they're considering a gap semester. Now, take with that information what you will. A main part of this is because two large freshman dorms, Monroe and Yates, are being under construction with this whole new 2025 10-year phase construction plan. I don't know. They have this 10-year plan to renovate the entirety of campus. And with that comes the dorms, because those are another point on my list of things to consider. Are two large freshman dorms, and so now they're turning sophomore year dorms into freshman dorms. Essentially, there is just a lack of housing for the amount of students that they're admitting, and now I have friends who are considering not even coming to school next semester because they can't find affordable housing. It won't be a problem for you for the next 2 years, but maybe it will continue to be a problem within the next 4 years, and maybe you'll be in that boat as well. Not the biggest issue for incoming freshmen, but it's definitely something to consider. Also, with the housing crisis, just another example of how bad it really is. Becoming an RA used to be kind of an in-the-bag thing. Like, if you applied to be an RA, you got good grades, you've never had to go into any type of council for breaking any type of housing rules, you're pretty much a shoo-in to be an RA. But now people are getting rejected left and right from RA positions. There's a huge wait list of RA positions because there is a housing crisis, and everybody knows that if you're an RA, you're guaranteed housing. It's not even coming down to the fact that it's free housing, it's just coming down to the fact that it's a place to live, and that's why people are becoming RAs. Just to show the magnitude of this issue, it's not just a little bit of a wait list, it's like a 500, 600 person wait list. On the same note of housing, the dorms here are horrific. They are horrible. And there are some nice dorms, like there's Lemon, there's Hardy, there's One Tribe Place, there's Tribe Square. There's all of these places that are lovely, but you just have to be lucky enough to get those dorms. And freshman year, when I was a freshman at least, it was a lottery, and I got stuck in the worst dorm ever. Go watch my best friend / freshman year roommates video on that GGV dorm tour. Horrible. You could watch my dorm tour on DuPont, which is where I'm living now, which is also becoming a freshman year dorm, and it's also horrible. Just an example of how cruddy it can be sometimes. I went home this weekend, and on my way back I was looking at my emails and my group me messages, and everyone was saying, do you guys have hot water? Does floor 3 have hot water? I come back to my DuPont dorm and there's just no hot water, and it gets kind of lukewarm a little bit. So I'm hoping they'll fix that sooner rather than later so I can enjoy my showers, but as of right now I'm taking cold showers. And this has happened multiple times, but it's been fixed and addressed every time that it does happen. This is the first time that there's been no communication between the resident life and DuPont with this hot water thing, which is strange. Another thing is that there is air conditioning within the dorms, but they turn off the air conditioning in November and don't turn it on until April. And we are in Virginia. Right now it's 70 degrees outside, and I guess it is the end of March, but there was a few days in the beginning of March when it was 70, 80 degrees. Living on the 3rd floor in a cinder block room, it just gets hot and muggy, and there's absolutely nothing you can do because the air is simply not turned on, so the only thing that turns on is hot air blowing out of the heater. Now, the odds that you get to live in this dorm as a freshman, relatively high considering DuPont is huge. It's a huge complex, but you also may get other dorms, and those other dorms are great. They're fantastic. They're super nice. Every dorm does have their positives and negatives, but there's GGV that's pretty cruddy. There's DuPont that's pretty cruddy. If you get stuck in Ludwell or the grad complex, those are 2 apartment-style complexes that are relatively nice in comparison to GGV and DuPont, but they are about, the grad complex is about a 35-minute walk from campus, and Ludwell is about a 25-minute walk to any academic building. So it comes with its pros and cons. Living in a dorm on William & Mary, at least with my experience, was worse than bad. I mentioned earlier construction on William & Mary and how there's this 10-year plan to essentially renovate the entire campus of William & Mary, and that's great, and that's so amazing for the students that are going to be here in 10 years, but for the students now, it's an absolute strain on our experience. For example, when they were first building the Integrated Science Center, or the ISC, in 2014, it was supposed to be this huge, large complex, and I guess it wasn't a phase. There were phases, as there's going to be a pattern of phases in this video, but there's phases to this. And I guess they decided to finish and complete all 4 phases of constructing the ISC now in 2023, the same year that they're finishing the arts complex that was supposed to be finished about 3 years ago, and also starting construction in Yates and Monroe. So as you can imagine, all that is going on right now is construction noises, construction sounds, construction workers that block the traffic because of the sheer magnitude of all of these construction sites that they're building. Dirt is everywhere. They're also building a new athletics complex, which is something I'll get into. So by the rec center, there's construction. By academic buildings, there's going to be construction. By the library, there's construction. So this campus that has once prided itself on its beauty and how peaceful it is now filled with dirt, construction workers, and construction beep, 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 and cranes in the air. And now there's fences in the middle of campus. There was absolutely no mention of, one, the ISC being continued to be constructed, or two, these fences that now surround the construction site next to the ISC. So 10-minute walks between classes now have turned into 15-minute walks, because now you have to walk in between these fences that are tarped up with green tarp, so you can't even see through the fences. It literally feels like you're a rat in a maze. Walking through the fences, you have to cut through academic buildings now to get through campus. And the projected finish date is August 1st, 2025, which is after I graduate. So these fences will be up until 2025, and that was not something that I agreed to when I was coming, not something that I think was going to happen, nor do I enjoy walking around and seeing construction workers or beeps and sounds when I'm just trying to sit outside and do my homework. This construction, even though it seems like it's not a big deal, at least to me, to somebody who feels trapped a lot of the times on this campus, doesn't relieve any sense of claustrophobia brought to you by the environment / culture. It just makes it worse, because I can't even sit outside without looking at the beautiful greenery Williamsburg has to offer unless I walk 25 minutes from my dorm to Colonial Williamsburg. As we know, William and Mary is in Williamsburg, Virginia, which essentially is in the middle of nowhere. The closest urban city area-ish, I want to say, is Richmond, but I think there's Newport News around here, which is about 30 minutes. Richmond is about a 45-minute drive. But other than that, you're kind of just stuck in this area of Williamsburg. And it is a tourist area, so there are things to do if you include Great Wolf Lodge and Busch Gardens, and I think there's a go-kart place. But all of those things cost money, and some people do enjoy going out, but for me, I can't afford to be spending $100 on a Busch Gardens ticket just for us to enjoy my Saturday. So I am stuck on the William and Mary campus. And if there's nothing around, that's fine. I knew that when signing up for it. But what I'm trying to say, in the sense that there's nothing around William and Mary, and we all spend most of our time on campus, is that it creates this William and Mary bubble, my friends and I like to call it, because you honestly forget that the outside world exists and that there's life outside of William and Mary, because the only people that you see are college students that are your age. You're not driving to school, you're not going out into a place where there's, like, as if it was a city where there's a whole entire other population just living. That's not what it is. It's, you are a college student, or you walk across the street into Colonial Williamsburg where there's just tourists. There's nobody living their life. You're either on vacation or you're a college student. And now, I'm not harping on William and Mary because that is what it is. That's when you come to William and Mary, that is what you sign up for, and I didn't know personally that I wouldn't like that. It creates, at least for me and a person like me who is, again, very independent, likes to do their own things, and only likes to have their social battery turned on when they choose to turn it on, it creates this very claustrophobic and trapped sense and feeling. Because there's only 2 dining halls on campus, as I said before, and on top of that, there's only 3 places where you can spend your dining dollars, which we consider like real food. So there's Chick-fil-A, which you can spend your dining dollars on. There's a place called Bake Shop, which is a bakery, so it has bagels and croissants and sweets like that, but for somebody who's gluten-free, they don't have a single gluten-free option, so that's not an option for me. And the third one is Sad Roma's, or Lodge 1, which is owned by a Williamsburg local company, and they have sandwiches, they have salads. It's kind of just like an upscale, overpriced Panera, if you will. And that's great, and that's an awesome food, but again, you lose touch with reality, because the only place that's real food that you can buy with your dining dollars is a Chick-fil-A, and that's closed on Sundays. So it perpetuates this William and Mary bubble, because again, you're forced into these few options, and on the weekends only 1 dining hall is open, so everybody on campus either goes to the dining hall, Bake Shop, or Lodge 1 in the basement of Sadler, which is where the dining hall that's open is located. So everybody is still going around the same areas, and on top of that, you don't have any real food options. There's a Wawa that's next to the Chick-fil-A, but that Wawa takes express dining, and William & Mary might try and fool you and be like, all of these locations take Express Dollars. And what Express Dollars is you take your debit card and you upload money onto your Tribe card so you can just swipe at the counter with your William & Mary ID rather than your debit card. It's still your money, and it's not part of a dining plan. It's not part of anything. And I just find that to be so frustrating, because on the weekends when I'm just trying to let go of school and I'm just trying to not think about class and live my own personal life, I'm still stuck in the same student union center to eat because I can't have Bake Shop and Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. So there's that. So this William & Mary bubble for people who like to just go out and do things where they won't see people that they know, or like variety of food in their life, and like Chipotle on one day and Panda Express on another. They like food options. This is not the place for you, because we don't have any of that. Another thing to consider when thinking about committing to William & Mary is the lack of communication between administration and students. So this whole ISC fence thing that I was so passive-aggressive about, we had absolutely no idea that that was happening and no notice that those fences were going up. And for students who have campus on one side of the fences to the other and they only have 10 minutes to go from one class to the other, not knowing that these fences, which add another 5 minutes to the commute, not knowing that that was going up, it was incredibly frustrating, because you're already sprinting from one class to another if you have 10 minutes. Now you're just going to be 5 minutes late and there's nothing you can do about it. So not knowing those things just makes it even more frustrating, because it's not like them telling us would have done anything about the issue. At least we would have known. At the beginning of this academic year, the administration installed this $40 key loss policy, where all of a sudden, nobody really knew. It wasn't an announcement that was being made. It was kind of, oh, did you hear now there's like a $40 charge if you lose your room key? That was instated, and that was never a thing in my freshman year, and it's just another ploy to nickel and dime you, essentially, because this school kind of charges absurd amounts of money for little things, like $40 to lose your room key. Now I understand why they're doing that, because they don't want kids losing their key, because at the end of the day it's just a big cost to William & Mary if they have to keep replacing their keys. But what it does is just make it more expensive to live here. We're already paying so much for our room and board that it's kind of absurd that they're going to charge us $40 for something they have a copy of. They could just take it to a Home Depot, which they don't. They probably have somebody cheaper to do it for them. Probably costs about $5 to $10 for them to replace that key. The fact that they're charging me, a broke college student, $40, I think is steep and ridiculous. But hey, they got to do what they got to do, and I understand it's to, again, to incentivize keeping your crap and making sure you're not losing the school's property. But all it does, when I heard there was a $40 charge when you lose your key, all I did was stop locking my door. My roommate and I looked at each other, we're like, well, we're not locking our door anymore. We're going to keep the key in the room and go about our day and just never lock our door. Now, is that safe? No, but that's what this charge does, this room key charge does. And after Residence Life has emailed us about it and has said, you know, we understand, blah, 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 but room lockouts have decreased by 40%. And in my head, the first thing that thought was, well, yeah, nobody's locking their door anymore, and they're just leaving their key in their room. And now they're giving us free keepers that stick to the back of our phone so we could keep the key. And that, again, great, thank you for doing that. But we didn't need these free keepers. We didn't need our tuition money going to these free keepers if you just didn't charge us $40. And that was a tangent that I'm still mad about, clearly. But again, it's just one of those little things that when so many larger things frustrate me, little things like this $40 room charge or a fence going up in the middle of campus really irks me, because of all of these other reasons that I'm explaining to you now, it's like I can't even lose my key without being charged $40. Lastly, this isn't really that big of a deal, but to me it is, because I'm not even a sports fan to begin with, and I didn't come here for the sports. I think most people and most viewers, if you're a high school senior watching this, you're not coming to William & Mary for the sports. You're not coming here because everybody talks about how fun the football games are or how crazy it gets during March Madness. No, that's not a thing here. We know that sports is not prevalent on campus, and that's just the way that it is. And honestly, that's a big drawing point for some people. At least not for me, it wasn't a main point, but I was like, hey, like, I'm not going to be forced to go to these football games that I'm not going to enjoy, because it's not a big part of our campus and it's not a big part of our culture, but the school keeps on trying to make it part of our culture by donating all of this money to the athletics department, and all of these alumni are donating things specifically allocated for the athletics department, which is fine. But seeing a new athletics Kaplan arena being built and a new gym just for the athletes does nothing but frustrate me when there's places like GGV, academic buildings like Boswell, which everybody jokes about. It's like a prison. It's dilapidated, decrepit. I have a classroom, a lecture hall with no windows in the basement. It's frustrating seeing these new crazy things being built and knowing that it's only being reserved for either the athletic students or only for athletic themed things, that it's like, I'm not partaking in any of this, and a majority of the student population isn't, because we are not a big sports school. Our sports programs are not big, but after talking to a few athletes, I'm hearing that they are increasing. The swim team is getting larger. The golf team is trying to get bigger as well. Like, they're trying to increase the size of everything and pour money into these athletes because the school knows that that's what is making them money, but they're not giving it to the other students who contribute to the research, and that's what the school prides itself on. At the end of the day, William & Mary is not known for their sports, and feeling as though, personally, I feel as though the athletes are being held to a different standard and are being given things that us regular students aren't being given. I understand that that's going to be at every single university, but when you commit to a school that doesn't pride itself on its sports and quite frankly isn't even good at their sports, it's just frustrating. So to completely change up the vibe of this video, because it has been so negative and I just talked about all bad things, let's talk about some of the good things. Some of the good things are the people here. And now, I don't know if that's like a biased view because I dislike so many other things about William & Mary that I'm looking at the one good thing that I do actually like, or if the people here truly do stand out amongst other universities. But I will say, you will not find a student body as intellectually stimulated and welcoming and open and kind as William & Mary. Like I said, the social battery thing isn't a sense of because people are mean. Obviously, if people were mean and only cared about the things they were doing and only cared and had this vision of, I just need to do what I gotta do and who cares about everybody else, I wouldn't have that issue. The reason that I feel like my social battery is always on is because people are so outwardly nice. They always have a smile on your face. You smile at a random stranger, they'll smile back. It just happened because I thought I recognized the girl. I didn't, but I still smiled anyways because I was like, well, now I'm staring at you for too long. And she smiled right back at me. So the people here are so nice, so kind. You'll never feel othered by groups of people here. You know, the baristas at the coolest spot on campus aren't like, oh, here's your iced white mocha latte. They're like, oh, here's your iced white mocha latte. Like, they're so kind. It's honestly so refreshing because I'm from New Jersey and we all know that New Jersey attitude of who cares about you, I gotta do what I'm gonna do. And coming here and being like, wow, these people, they're nice, they're attentive, they care. It's just something that I don't think can be offered at most other universities, and you will truly find your best friends here at William & Mary because I know I found my ride or dies here. Now, like I said, with the smaller campus and campus size and being involved in so many things, you get to know a lot of different people, and it does turn into a bit of a high school thing, as I once said, just to reiterate again, where it turns into, oh my gosh, did you hear that? Oh my gosh, did she do this and such and such? But I feel like that's going to be anywhere you go, and I feel like that's not a fair point to knock William & Mary, but I will say it gets like that super quickly. Maybe the rate at which it gets catty and high schooly just is increased because our class size is so small. You get to know people really fast, and just something else to consider. Another thing about William & Mary is that the professors here super receptive, super kind, and they just want to help. You know, the professors here are people too, and honestly they do get frustrated with the administration a lot, so it creates this, at least with me whenever I talk about it with my professors, it creates this bond of like, we are in this together, we're trying our best to make the experience the best for everybody together. And you email them, they'll get back to you, you go to their office hours, they'll talk to you. They're honestly just such amazing people here, and every professor just wants you to do well. Another thing to consider about coming to William & Mary is that The Alumni Network is super connected, and maybe that's something that other universities use as a selling point. I didn't do a very good job in my college searches, but if anything else, our alumni network is good. And again, like, it might just be every college's alumni network is great, but no, for real. I know so many people that are like, oh, I know this person who just graduated a few years ago who is doing X, Y, and Z, Alexis. Why don't I connect them with you? Oh, my friend just graduated last semester. She did X, Y, and Z. Let me connect them with you. At first, every time I heard alumni network, I was like, what does that even mean? But now I understand. The alumni here are so willing and eager to help because they shared the William & Mary experience, and it is a bonding experience. There is this level of connection that you have with everybody who goes to William & Mary, and I think that the alumni want to be able to help the people in undergrad and venture out and branch out so that way more people know about William & Mary. Just as a quick example, I'm in this undergraduate research think tank, and I was connected to an alumni who graduated from William & Mary and was also a part of the same think tank, and he was an incredible resource for me when I was asking him about different career options. The next day he emailed me back with podcasts, videos, books, movies, all of these different resources to me, and he is an alumni. So it's just an example of the alumni network is so connected and so willing to help the undergraduate students into the real world. So those are all of the key points that I think you should consider before coming to William & Mary. Now, like I said, it is up to your own personal decision, and just because I don't like some things doesn't mean that you would like those. And just because I hate certain aspects of William & Mary doesn't mean that you're gonna hate them. For example, my best friend loves how small this campus is and how she could say hi to everybody because that's just who she's like, and that's just how she likes things to be. Personally, not for me. So this whole entire video was created to make it a point that William & Mary is not for everybody, and definitely to decide and think about things carefully before coming, because William & Mary is in the process of changing its reputation and becoming a bigger school. And right now it's this weird intermediary period where we're used to small class size things. We came here for small class sizes, but all of a sudden it's getting bigger, and it's this weird cultural shift that's going on. Essentially, we're living in the middle of William & Mary trying to change their look and the way they function and things, and it comes with a lot of costs to us as students, like I was talking about the fences and the housing crisis and all of these things. So think about that before coming to William & Mary. Not that it isn't a great institution. This is a great place to get an education and a great place to land amazing careers right out of college. It just comes with a big expense, and for somebody like me who doesn't prioritize their career over everything in life, and I enjoy a good balance between career/schoolwork and how I'm feeling and the things that I'm doing in my own personal life, it definitely is a hindrance to me as a student. So consider those things. And you might be asking, Alexis, if you have so many bad things to say about William & Mary, why aren't you transferring? It's because I only realized that I didn't really like it here over winter break, because with freshman year and everything that was going on, it was just, oh, this is new and this is new, and everything was new, and I didn't have time to sit with it and think about whether or not I really like it and live it. So now that I've been living it for years, I realize I don't like it. Too late to transfer. I'm not going to be transferring just for 2 years on another place. And also, William & Mary is still a great education. Like, I love my classes, but so I've decided to study abroad for the whole academic year to try and just give myself a break. That way, when I come back, I will have missed the people, I will have missed America, and I'll be able to be happy rather than by my senior year absolutely detesting this place. So, that being said, I am so open and willing to be a resource to help and talk with you if you're thinking about considering William & Mary as a class of 2027, or maybe, who knows, even after that. Definitely reach out to me on my Instagram. It's at Alexis Lavora. If you want to hear more about William & Mary related things, where we talk about more niche things regarding William & Mary, I have a podcast all about William & Mary. It's called Past the Grimdell. We have an explanation in one of our podcasts about why it's called that. Our Instagram for that is at Past the Grimdell. I'll link that in the description box. So please reach out to me, talk to me, be like, hey Alexis, why do you feel this way? But maybe it's like this. And I'm totally open. I'm not just in this pigeonhole of I don't like William & Mary. So reach out to me there. I am more than willing to talk to you guys. And honestly, I want to hear more. I want to get to know people who are coming into William & Mary. That way when I come back, I'll still know some people here. Okay, so thanks so much for watching. Thanks for clicking on this video. And I promise I'm not a negative Nelly. I just felt like there are a few things that had to be said about this place. Alright, bye guys.